It's Wednesday, December the 7th. Lake level is 908 3/4. It's almost 8.5 feet low and dropping every day. It's kind of good. Lake's getting down. I haven't seen it this low in a while, and I just soon see them drop it a little bit more. There's a lot of brush piles, different things starting to stick up out of the water. So as I've been out, I've been able to mark a lot of new structure that I didn't know was there. And it just kind of makes it like a different lake. It's popping, a lot of cedar trees popping up where you can fish them with a jerkbait. A lot of different things happening, when it cools down and drops like this. Now the water temperature is definitely cooling down. It's cold out there today, and it's going to be colder. I probably won't be out the next few days. But anyways, that water temperature, I was up in the White River, up around Baxter, Campbell Point area, and it was mid-50s. But I know like Flat Creek and the Upper James River is in the high 40s. And ever since that cold front came through this weekend, the fishing's really picking up quite a bit. The deep bite was awesome before. It's just gotten better, but a lot of the shallower fish are starting to bite. Still not catching any giants, but catching some good fish on crankbaits, spinnerbaits, jerkbaits, and a lot of fish out deep. If you want to just go out for fun and catch a ton of deep fish, learn how to use your electronics, now is the time to do it. And there's kind of two different deals of deep fish going that I found. I'm either out there on the main lake, gravel points, or I'm in the center of the deep creeks where the timber's submerged and fishing over and through the timber. Now out on the gravel flats, some days the fish will be as shallow as 25, 28 feet, and throughout the day they might move out to 45, as deep as 50 foot. But there's absolutely tons of Kentuckys out there. We're catching, a few spotted bass, some big white bass out there. But a lot of the days, you got to catch 5 or 6 to get a keeper. Today it was a lot more like almost half and half. So some of the areas will be a lot more smaller fish. Other areas will be, if they're not keepers, they'll be real close to keepers. And the way I'm catching a lot of them out there is on a jig and spoon, drop shot, several different baits. But this is one deal that works. It works pretty neat. It's a 3/4 ounce jig and spoon, and I don't really think it matters what brand you use. This is a Hazy Daisy, but I know a War Eagle will work, a Pig Sticker, a Jewel spoon will work. But if you notice on the top of the spoon, I've got a treble hook here. So, and you actually put that on before you tie the spoon on, and it's just got like I go to the fly shop and get some white chartreuse, tie it on there, tie it onto the treble hook. And what this does is when you're jigging that spoon up and down, the hook actually separates from the spoon. And a lot of times what you do is you'll get one that'll bite the spoon, then once you get him hooked, you'll get another one on the feather. Most of the bait is about 2 inches long that the fish are just belching. Now, and once you get them fired up, the spoon or the ice fishing jig works really good. And it's a 1/2 ounce, and I think this one is a 7/8. It's a Rapala ice fishing jig. And I jig it up and down just like a spoon. Most of the time, like today, we'd basically just go to the bottom and work the spoon or the ice fishing jig so that on a downstroke it was hitting the bottom. Once you caught a fish or two, you would see the screen light up, and then most of the time you would get another bite before the bait actually got to the bottom. And we've been throwing a drop shot and some too, but what seems to be working a little bit better where these fish are feeding so heavy on shad out there is a little Kitech. This is a little 2.8 Kitech. I've got it on a 1/4 ounce head. Take that same bait and rig it up on a drop shot. Well, this is one that White River Lures makes. It's about a 2.5 inch bait. It's been working killer on the drop shot. And it seems like these shad looking baits have been working a little bit better than the worms, because like I say, I think the fish are feeding so heavy on shad. But I'm using the same baits in the centers of the creeks, and what I'm doing in the center of the creek, I'm just kind of idling down through there, and I've got my structure scan on and my sonar, and I'm idling down through there looking for the trees, the shad, and the fish. And the fish are grouping up really good to where you can actually pick them up on your structure scan. They'll actually look like a school of crappie or something out there. And then I'll idle back through the creek. I'll mark the spots that I think are productive. Then I'll come back out and fish those spots. And I'm going all the way back till it's about 35 feet deep from the back of the creeks out to the mouth. And like I say, instead of fishing every inch of it, I'm idling through there first, marking the spots that I think will be the best, and I'm turning around, coming back out and fishing those. And most of the time, some of those fish are suspended up in the trees. Some of them are right on bottom. And what I'm doing with the drop shot or the spoon is, just staying right on top of the trees. But there'll be some areas where there isn't any trees, and they're relating more to the bottom instead of the timber. So you just got to play around a little bit. But those have been primarily largemouth in there. There's still, I'm going to say about half Kentucky's half largemouth, but that's where I bet a largemouth have been coming from, is out of them deeper trees. Problem is you get stuck a lot more, and it's a lot harder to fish the trees than it is the open flats. Now, the jerkbait bite, with the water being low like it is, there's a lot of cedar trees showing up on the main lake and secondary points. And basically, on the jerkbait and the crankbait, what I'm doing more than anything is just chasing the wind. Wherever the wind is blowing in on what I think is the right type of bank, I'll go over and fish it with either the jerkbait or the crankbait. And what I'm looking for on the jerkbait, if it's a secondary point, I usually like the main creek channel on one side of it before it goes into the pocket. And there'll be, if it's got cedar trees or hardwoods out on the point, 100 foot each side. And I've been through mixing it up between a 110 Megabass and a McStick Spro, and mainly throwing a lot of shad colors. The water's really clear. Speaking of the water, the lake is also turning over. Last week I was up in the James River, and it's got an tannic acid color. It's kind of a brown. Now up in the White River today, I noticed the same thing. But I wouldn't shy away from it because I'm not having any trouble getting bit in the deep water or the shallow. Now on the crankbait, I'm kind of looking for the same banks as I am for the jerkbait, except on the jerkbait I'm setting out there in about 20-25 feet of water, throwing to the cedar trees that are anywhere from 10 to 20 foot deep, and working it through the cedar trees suspended. What I do is try to make a cast to each side, then get in as close as I can. The better fish have been right up against the trees. I've been getting my bait stuck a little bit, but the good thing about the jerkbait, it doesn't go down that far, about 6 or 8 feet. And something on the jerkbait, normally what I do, I usually weight all my jerkbaits. I don't want the baits at all to rise, especially in this colder water. If anything, I want them to sink so that when they're sitting, the bait sinks down just a little bit. And the Megabasses seem to be a little nose heavy, so I usually take a little solder, soldered wire is what it is, and wrap it around the back treble hook. The McStick Spros seem to be just the opposite. They seem to be a little tail heavy, and I wrap that lead up around the front hook. But a lot of times too, with both of these baits have a casting chamber in them, so it depends which way that weight. If the weight's in the tail, the bait's probably going to sit like that. If it's in the front, it's probably going to sit like that. Now, like I say, on the crankbaits, I'm fishing the same type of banks, but I'm just fishing in behind the trees. But I am fishing the crankbait further back into the creeks. And it seems like the bigger rock, like that big old black lava rock or ledge rock, seems to be the best. It doesn't have to be like a bluff that steep, but the 45-degree bank, chunk rock banks seem to be working a little better. And I'm throwing a custom painted wiggle warts, the new Spro rock crawler. Let's see, this is a custom painted one here, the PBJ, painted by Fall Creek Lures. This is another one of his that I custom painted. But mainly I'm just trying to throw my greens, reds, and browns, crawdad pattern crankbaits. And, you know, every once in a while you'll get into a good fish on them, but they're still not on that crankbait or spinnerbait real good, I don't think. I'm throwing the spinnerbait in the same place I am the jerkbait and the crankbait. Sometimes we'll work that spinnerbait to the same trees that we're stick baiting. If we're up there cranking, one of us usually has a spinnerbait on, we're throwing it up on the same type of rock that we're cranking. One guy starts catching more than the other, then we may both throw the same bait. But normally we kind of like to mix it up, give the fish a choice, or get a bite or two to let the fish tell us, you know, what they want. But this winter fishing, I mean, this table rock is just awesome in the wintertime. And it's going to get better as far as the quality. You know, something I haven't even talked about is a football jig. I'm sure you can catch them on a football jig out there in 30 foot of water, you know, where we're catching them on drop shots and spooning. But you can get that spoon down there so much faster, and you're basically sitting right on top of the fish. There is a little bit of a jig bite on shallow docks, but it hadn't been real strong. Something I haven't even been throwing yet on table rock is the A-rig, but that should be coming into play, and you'll start seeing and hearing about some bigger fish coming on it. So look for the fishing to be, you know, really pretty awesome for the next month. Till that water temperature gets below 50, it's really going to be good. Till next week, good luck, good fishing.